So this, of course, you probably all know this, California Native Plants for the Garden by Bornstein, Frost, and O'Brien, the authorities. They also subsequently did this, reimagining the California lawn. Within this one, they're not all California native plants, but they are all pretty much drought tolerant and good possibilities for a California climate. And it includes whether it's a greensward or a planting bed, but all of them applicable. Then John Greenlee does a beautiful, beautiful book with Saxon Holt photographs. Also, Saxon Holt photographs are in here, so they're gorgeous. But John talks about American meadows and using any kind of plants throughout the globe, and so you get all sorts of things. But he has wonderful instruction in the back and how-tos and how he does it. So it's worth it. It's a bit of a coffee table book, but it's still very good. And then finally, this one, the California Native Gardening, a month-by-month guide. I highly recommend that one because once you get your plants into the ground, then the best way to maintain them or take care of them, even though this is not a complete batch of information, but it certainly takes you through a California year, 12 months of California, and how to think about how to tend, how to listen to your plants. Does anyone have this book yet? Yes. Okay. So if you get no other book, do this. It has good explanation at the beginning. Then it's like the Sunset Western Garden book. It has a compendium of plants with descriptions and sizes and situations. And then in the back it has a reference of plants that go good under oaks, plants that go good in slopes, all different conditions, and then you can go look up that section and it'll tell you which California native plants go well in those conditions. Okay, so you can turn your old lawn area into a habitat garden. Sometimes we say, oh, I want a butterfly garden or I'd like a hummingbird garden. Well, you can have it all because if you build it, no matter what, they will come. Habitat gardens contain three main components: the food, water, and shelter. So food comes from the plants. Water, plants, whether it's the nectar or the seed, and if you're looking for deer as part of your wildlife habitat, then the plants themselves will become quite a source of food. It's a whole other topic. The water you can recreate. Again, I hope this coloration turns out okay, but so this is just a little bubbly fountain that's considered a disappearing fountain. And I actually use these a lot. You may already have one, you've heard of them. Underneath the ground there's a reservoir, plastic tub, like a kid's swimming pool, but sturdy, about this far around, about this deep, and it's got structures within it that then hold up a top that is a grid, an open grid. And the supports are strong enough to hold either a pot or an interesting Michelin man. I don't know what that is, but it's fun with hole up the center, or a stone that's got a drilled hole in it. And so underneath these stones is that reservoir with the mesh top. And this sits down first. Within the reservoir, you have the water source coming in, and you also have the pump, and the water source has a valve attached to it, so that as the water fills up and it gets to the top or a certain level of the reservoir, the water turns off. But the pump is still pumping water, so it's a continual flow of water, continual sound of water that attracts the wildlife. But as the evaporation takes place and the water level goes down, the valve goes, oh, there's too little water, I'm going to go back up, turn back on, and the water turns on again, and it comes back up. So I think they sell these at, what's the pottery place in Santa Cruz? Pottery Planet, right. And I think they also sell them down at the Moss Landing. Used to be the same group of people, but anyway, you could, Disappearing Fountain is the name of it. You can Google it, and they've got sources as well. So the water, of course, attracts dragonflies. Every living thing needs water. And then the shelters, so that the wildlife can actually reproduce. They need protected areas, or there's other predators. The crows love to eat the eggs of hummingbirds and that sort of thing. So especially you want to have plants, and native plants, of course, are what we're talking about here. So especially for like hummingbird nests that are so small and tiny, and the fledglings are just so small themselves. But to be in a dense ceanothus or a dense manzanita or some dense shrub that is strong enough that the crows or any other hawk, it's hard for them to get in. So to provide in your garden some sort of shelter. And it doesn't have to be your whole lawn area. You can, of course, have perimeters or just planting beds in some of that area that you took out the lawn, and the rest of the removed lawn area could be something else, a sitting patio or something like that. And this, does anybody here do Instagram? Okay, well, if you did, this person, Terry Davitt, is quite a birder, and so she's got great bird photos. Okay, so traditional turf alternatives. So this is replacing lawn with lawn, but native lawn. So here we have up here a dune sedge, Carex panza, and this is very much like its cousin Carex progressilis, that is a running sedge, but it likes drainage. It likes what the name is dune. So it can go in more sandy soils. But you can see how it kind of knits together and then tries to knit into your walkway. This is a small backyard lawn, if you will. It's left uncut. This is the progressilis again, and this is in late June. It's irrigated, so it is not looking like it's late June yet. But around it is, and I didn't write these down, Penstemon etonii. It's a red penstemon. Solidago californica, or California goldenrod, and we'll see that in some of the subsequent images. And then back here, probably you know this one is a lilac verbena, Verbena lilacina, and a little sitting bench that nobody can get to because of the high grass. The irrigation class, that just was the last one. Michael talked about Delta bluegrass, who has developed California native sod, and sod basically is just like the same thing as turf, and you can buy it rolled up, and so you can get a quantity however size you have of a yard, and just roll it out. So some of the ones that they have developed are mixes of seeds of natives and non-natives, but all low water. Some of them are straight California species, a mix or a single species. This one, native heartland sod, includes our native purple needlegrass, as well as the Malate red fescue and nodding needlegrass, as well as California barley. So this is a complete native sod. Then artificial turf. The challenge with that, it seems so easy, but there are issues, and the salespeople will say, well, we're working on those, things are improving, don't worry about it. So, number one, it's pure polyethylene fiber. Sand and rubber, that's where that is, number one. Sand and rubber infill, so that those rubber particles, they're small, If your child plays soccer, your dog rolls around in that artificial turf, guess what goes up their nose or into their ears? Then they put a weed barrier, because they got to keep those weeds down, but weeds do come up through here anyway, of course, because it's permeable, it lets the water through. Crushed rock base, and then the natural soil. So how much health do we think that the natural soil underneath maintains? Not much at all. So the rubber and this artificial turf polyethylene fiber off gases, it's got the rubber particles, suffocates the soil. The heat, if you've been out on a soccer field or a baseball field that in the hot sun that has this artificial turf, it's really hot. And so kids who play sports on artificial turf are having respiratory problems more and more. It's a hard surface to fall on because you've got this gravel. It's expensive, and it all ends up in the landfill. Clumping grasses. Here's a couple of examples. Nodding needle grass in the morning shade and afternoon sun. It's very happy with that. This is the cousin to the purple needle grass, the native California state grass. It looks very much like it, but it doesn't have the little bit of purple tinge. It's more of a golden tinge. Then here is a lawn that was removed. Traditional house, but here goes this great homeowner again that says, I don't want a traditional landscape. So we did a tufted hairgrass meadow with a few wildflowers, but mainly it was that clumping grass, the tufted hairgrass, and it's got a beautiful golden on to it when it does bloom in the late spring. And it does get golden at the base, and you want to trim it back so that it rejuvenates itself as well. On all of these, you will get that turn of the season, that California turn of the season. What time is it? 3 o'clock? I have until when? 3:30? Okay, thank you. Oh, cool. Okay. So then the bunching or clumping grasses can make great lawn replacements and design statements. So single-spaced, small-flowered melic grass, Melica imperfecta, in the summertime, partial shade with drip irrigation. So see how golden this is? In the spring, it is lime green. It's really beautiful. And then you just let this happen, and I do have a video, but I don't know how to put videos on these kind of. All I know how to do is click. Anyway, this time of year, then when you get the summer breezes, it's a golden, it's about this high, it's not very high, but it's a beautiful thing. And it's within a ground cover of woodland strawberries. I don't think I mentioned that here. Here is, this is my old place up on the hills of San Carlos. Great mid-century little house. So what better way than to have clean, simple, easy to care for landscape with 3 deer grass and some sort of hardscape that is also very simple as well. So structurally, with your lawn or your planting beds or however you want to do it, you can call off your architecture. If you have a cottage style, if you've got a classic something else, you can play with that kind of design statement as well. Masses of grasses, that's a fun thing to do. Here is foothill sedge. There's a whole line of it around the gravel patio here. And this is Carex tumulicola. Here's where common names can become extra confusing. In the trade, when you go to buy these, you may be buying foothill sedge or Berkeley sedge. They'll call it the same thing. But the native one is Carex tumulicola, and the non-native Russian one is Carex divulsa. And they're really hard to tell the difference between them unless you take a hand lens and divide up the molecules or something like that. But reputable nurseries will sell them Carex tumulicola. Irreputable nurseries will sell them Carex tumulicola/divulsa. Don't buy that one if you want to get a native. Here are Idaho fescue, and I see we have some out here as well. later in the season, so they're a little bit browner. But here we use for the edging some driftwood, and these are spaced. They're clumping grasses, so they're spaced in a geometric pattern. Just kind of interesting nature with geometry. And then here is a dry creek bed with meadow sedge, which we've seen a bunch of, which is a running grass. So that's it up here. Deschampsia cespitosa, I think that's these smaller clumps here. And then California fescue, which are the taller ones. So you have different levels of grasses in your masses, if you like.